Welcome to the R.E.A.L podcast, where hosts Shane Kilby and Dwayne Murphy dive deep into the world of real estate agent life. From overcoming hurdles to celebrating success, join us as we explore the journeys of industry veterans and rookies alike. Get ready for bi-weekly episodes packed with advice, feedback, and mentorship from the best in the business.
All right. We are here for another episode of Real Podcast, Real Estate Agent Life. And with us today, we have none other than a good friend in the business, Kimo Quance. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Welcome, Kimo.
What'd you say?
You know, Dwayne, he's always a little loud.
The hype man.
Yeah, he's a good hype man. Good hype man. So we got you on here today, and just want to give us a little backstory. Tell the audience a little bit about Kimo and how you got in the business, where he's from, a little bit about your backstory.
Sure. I'm Kimo Quance. Currently live in just south of Nashville, but I'm from San Diego. Been out in Nashville here a couple of years. Born and raised in San Diego. Backstory: veteran in the Coast Guard. Got into sales after that, and then decided if you're going to sell something, might as well sell something expensive to make more money. So here we are.
Big ticket items. So I mean, you say you got into sales. What, besides the ticket price, what had to be something there that sparked your interest into real estate. What was that?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what started it, but I started as an investor, at some point. So at 24, I bought my first house. I've been in sales right after I got the Coast Guard, enjoyed sales. I was in the car business. Second month in the car business, outsold all the other salesmen and made a good living, and I was 23, 24 years old, started making $10,000, $15,000 a month, in early 2000s. And I was like, man, sales is good. Money's flowing, life is good. So I bought my first house at 24, and I was living in Las Vegas, right? So money was really flowing right before the crash in Las Vegas. And I decided Vegas got it old after a while. And so I was like, I'm going to head back to San Diego, back home. And you know what? I'm going to keep this house. I'm going to had my first rental. So it was like I was 25, 26, moved back to San Diego, had my first rental. And then in that, I was in San Diego working or whatever. And then I was like, man, I need to get a house here now. I'm like, I don't think I can get approved. I already have a house, at 25, 26 years old. Who's going to give me another house? Whatever. I called the bank and they're like, yeah, the rental income you get kind of helps pay for that. So it doesn't count towards your debt. So we can qualify you for another house. I was like, are you kidding me? So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I bought another house, and then I was like, you know what? Why don't I just do this again? And so then I moved to the next house. I already was getting credit for being a landlord already, so they immediately gave me credit for that second house of income. And so I just did that, in my 20s, early 30s, and had a small portfolio. And then I was like, you know what? I love sales here. And so might as well get my real estate license so I can find more deals. Right. And then, ended up doing well in the real estate business as well.
Now, obviously you started as a solo agent, or did you start on a team right away?
No, I started as a solo.
Or did you just did you do it the hard way and go solo?
Yeah, did it the hard way, went solo, failed my way forward, kept on spending money on stupid stuff, and but kept on hustling, kept on pushing and do what I needed to do each and every day. I had some good mentors in place, to make sure I was treating my business like a job, right? And being a hard boss on myself, not, obviously sitting back like a lot of agents do and just wait. I got my license now, people are going to call me.
Yeah.
We all know it doesn't work that way, right?
No.
So I was making the calls, doing the touches you're supposed to do every single day, and then eventually, success happens.
So, but weren't you on a, so I guess technically you're a movie star. You're famous.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, movie star. Yeah, right.
I
Didn't
forgot
we
about
have
all that
some
all that TV show.
We don't talk about that movie. That one's you got to go deep in the internet for that one. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
No. That's down in the dark web. No.
I had it on my notes not to bring that up. I was like, no, don't bring that up. Shane just was like, oh, look at that landmine.
Yeah, someone's going to go
It's a
down that
short
rabbit
movie.
hole.
No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, though, but you did you found success early on, and you ended up on some real estate TV, right?
Yeah. So it's funny. I got my license. I got my license in January. No, January, I think it was. And I quit my job. I took 2 months off, went and traveled the world. And I just read real estate books during that 2 months. I came back. It was April, got into the business. I was living in one side of my duplex. And I was telling my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, we were watching HGTV, and I was like, we should get them to come fix this backyard back here, you know? And, one of those backyard crashers or whatever they are.
Right.
Anyways, so my wife ended up just applying for all different TV shows, right? And we were, or my girlfriend, my wife now at the time, and
all the same person, so you're okay.
Yeah, all the same person. Yeah. Sorry, baby, you're watching this. No, so HGTV House Hunters ended up reaching out to us because we were in the middle of buying a place as well, and they liked the dynamic of my girlfriend and me being the realtor, right? And so we went through the process or whatever, and they liked the story, and so they picked us up, to do an episode of HGTV's House Hunters. I was literally in the business like 6 months, if that. Wow. So I was like, I had to be a good actor because I didn't know anything about selling houses on my first episode. and then from there, I ended up creating a relationship with the producer and everything at House Hunters. And, I ended up doing 4 episodes total. Still friends. I'm going to have lunch with the producer here in a couple of weeks. She's going to be in town. And so that was one of my, in getting into this business and understanding, and just training and stuff, like when people have a book or have a radio show or been on TV, you can use that forever, right? And so my next step was, all right, now I need to get on radio, right? So I knew there was local realtors on the radio, so I got myself on some radio episodes. And then I was like, well, now I need to be in print, right? And so I ended up writing a book. Don't read it; it sucks. But it's an old book now. But
the key question there is: are you still collecting royalties from the book?
No, I make 3 cents or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, we ended up going best-selling on Amazon, for the book and real estate. And so now, forever I can go on appointments and, I can have HGTV's House Hunters, best-selling author, been on the radio, right? And it provides that, what do they call that? Like
brand authority.
Credibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Brand authority.
So if you are getting into this business and you're watching this, obviously, figure out. I mean, there's things like, I think Help a Reporter Out is no longer around, but there's other companies that do it where you can get yourself in the newspaper or get your, quote somewhere, and you can always put that on your listing, presentation or whatever. So
nice. So you actually, you came into sales, you transitioned, from solo, you transitioned into building your own team. And then which was a bold move. You relocated halfway across the country, right?
Yeah.
Was that so? That had to be like, I mean, first that was ballsy. That was ballsy. Big move. So walk us through that. I mean, that just picking your family up and moving them halfway across the country. Walk us through that.
Well, I mean, getting into real estate was all calculated, and getting here to Tennessee was all calculated, right? It's not just spur of the moment stuff. Like when I talked about getting into real estate, it was a year in the process of preparing, right? I got myself into, I had my rentals, and then I was getting this next rental that was going to cash flow really good. It was a duplex I bought for $200,000 in San Diego. So the mortgage rate at the time, I forgot what it was, but it was low enough to where I could live in one side and the other side actually paid for the whole thing, right? So, and then during that year, I was preparing to get in real estate. I was paying off all my debt. So once I quit my job, I literally had enough savings to give myself a runway to be successful for 6 months. And I had no, I had paid off my car as well. So I had no debt going out each month, so I premeditated, like prepared, right, to get into business. And same thing for this move here. It wasn't willy nilly. It was, figuring out what all the threats, opportunities, that could happen in this transition and addressing that along the way. I mean, the first one was to really get myself out of production. So it helped me push my team further to get myself out of production. So that way I could make the move. Right. So, because at the time I was doing a little more than half the business on the team. And, so that was the first step. And then, I went out of town, for a month, took a vacation for a month to challenge my team, and they didn't realize they were being tested. What's that?
See what breaks.
Yeah. And, just see how that, and they actually had more success, when I wasn't there. So that was they passed that test. And so we continually, did that. But, there's obviously things that come up that you don't expect that quickly, right? I moved here June 1st of 2022, and June of 2022 was right when interest rates started increasing. So that was something that wasn't anticipated at that time. So that obviously created some other obstacles in being out here. But I was just flying back and forth, running the team,
But it's a testament to your leadership, to be able to take that time away and allow your team to make decisions, call shots. I'm sure you had a lot of influence on that, but allow them to fail, fail forward, fail fast, fail often, right? And to be decisive. So that's very interesting, very, very, very bold move, very bold move. But like you said, it was very calculated, very calculated. So you've had a lot of success in business and in sales, as an agent, as a team leader, team owner, and investor. Has it always been smooth sailing? Has there ever been any rocky roads other than out of the left field, this obnoxious interest rates and 0 time flat? What would you say your greatest, struggle, hurdle, mountain, obstacle has been in business so far?
Well, there's a lot of issues, a lot of things that go on.
Daily.
I mean, I don't know if there's one big thing. I mean, if looking back now, obviously hindsight's always 20/20, but you guys read the book Profit First, right?
Yeah.
So Profit First, I read the book, when it came out, right? And you read it and you're like, oh, that's good, right? Let me, not implement this. And, like you should have. But I got here to Tennessee, right? And I ended up reading the book again. And then I read the book Profit First for Real Estate Investors. And the guy who wrote that is actually a different guy. But, the foreword from Mike, who wrote the first book, wrote the foreword for the Real Estate Investor book. All the same principles and everything. But the guy who wrote the Profit First for Real Estate Investors, he runs a company called Simple CFO. And I don't make any money from this or anything, but I hired them to help me run Profit First model for all my businesses. And looking back now, I think like a lot of teams, you get a little bloated, over time and, not tracking your numbers the best you could and, and spending too much money or whatever. I make a lot more money now by running the Profit First model and am prepared for issues that may come up much better. So looking back, over that whole time, I would have done a better job in, managing the finances of the business and cut things sooner, you know what I mean? Or added things sooner. So that's a hurdle. And then obviously, there's a number of things from personnel, hiring slow, firing fast, that kind of stuff. I'd certainly address again.
Yeah, it's really easy,
we all look like geniuses, and just the
Speak
most
for yourself. I
amazing
don't know about
business
that.
owners when the market's rocking, right? I
Yeah.
mean, everything you touch just turns to cash because everything's just that way. Shane and I were just discussing off camera prior to you coming on on cutting fat, trimming stuff, and rather than being reactive, being proactive, and taking the measures you need to when the market shifts or prior to, and trying to anticipate when that is. Even though in our industry, I think more so than other professions, I think we're subject to way more drastic swings. So I mean, everybody was affected by the great zombie apocalypse, right? There wasn't any industry, any profession that wasn't affected by that, obviously, as we were. But when you look at like the market right now, and what's going on with sales and interest rates and inventory and prices and all of that, right? And yet, a majority of other industries and professions are still humming along, right? Everyone's feeling the effects of inflation, but for the most part, everything's still flying, right? It's one specific industry, and then those professions and businesses that are tied to those industries a little bit that are weathering through some of the storm, and like you said, it's that taking the action you need to take in order to get through it, get to the other side, and not only that, but also to thrive in it.
Yeah. Being
Well,
decisive on some of these things,
well, do you guys? I mean, here's a interesting take. It's like when you come into it's when you come into this business, there are 87% of agents are in and out of the business in 5 years or less from the time that they become active in the business. But for those of us who have found success in the business, isn't it interesting how that came? Like it wasn't like natural, and it wasn't like we bought the winning lottery ticket, but it's like we had the everyday expenses. Don't get me wrong, nothing like we have today, and we immediately found traction. And the ROI that we had when we first came in the business and found that success is just like 50x from the ROI percentage wise it is today. We've all been taught, the bigger the pie, the smaller the slice. The end goal, you end up making more money. But it's ironic that when you continue to create success, and I guess it's just you have more choices, more freedom, and sometimes it kind of gets you into some, I wouldn't say bad decision making, but maybe not as good a decision making. So I guess because the money's more prevalent, the more more options are there. But is it just me, or is it ironic how that takes place when we first come into the business? Everything we touch turns to gold, and then we're making all these other decisions as the money as it comes in, and it's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have made half of those decisions that we did.
Yeah,
So,
sometimes you don't need all these bells and whistles, right? I mean, a lot of us have cut a lot of that stuff out these days, right? And the business is still running fine, right? Obviously, sales are down nationally and all that kind of stuff, but the winners are going to win, in the long run, right?
Yeah.
what would
Well,
you?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Shane.
Dwayne.
So speaking of that, Kimo, obviously you have a team, you had a team. You've ran across a ton of agents in your career and time span. And a decent amount of our audience are agents, right? They either want to get into real estate, they are in real estate, right? They're involved in real estate somehow, maybe even business, right? It all applies. What do you think makes someone all of a sudden is going to make it or isn't? Because I haven't found right. You can do a disc score, you can give them a disc, and you can give them, a personality test, and you can give them some aptitude stuff. You can run them through some different channels and think that you got someone who's gonna step up to the plate and hit home runs every damn time, and they can't hit a curve to save their life. And then you get other ones, and you're like, damn, right? Like, I don't think this one's gonna make it, but I'm gonna try, right? I'm gonna just what the heck? I got some room on my bench. I'm just going to throw this one in the lineup and just see what happens. And that sucker gets up and just hits dingers.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been wrong many times on that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. I mean, some of it is just, I mean, it's in you. You just either got it or you don't.
Yeah.
You know?
What's those traits, do you think? I mean,
you can't
what
teach
is
the
it that...
finesse of being able to talk to someone or know that you can teach, like, okay, don't change this word of the script because it completely changes what you're saying. You can teach that, but I guess, can someone actually like implement that in a real live conversation, right? And with a client or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've had the people that I told, they can't come on my team, and I had one I did not want on my team, and he convinced me. He came back and he's like, I forgot exactly what the pitch was, but I'm like, all right, I'll give you a shot. He ended up being one of my top agents. And, I don't know the answer to that. But, I mean, you got to have that grit. I mean, you got to get out there and do the work. This is a simple job. Put your face and put your belly in front of people, talk to people, have conversations. You're going to run into them. Stop focusing on the wrong things, right? I think all of us try to, what's the stat? It's 70% or something like that of all listings are listed with people that the seller knows or were referred to. But for some reason, us as agents want to focus on spending a bunch of money on the 30% of people who don't know us, like us, or trust us, and we have to go back, like, build the community around you. Zillow can't have a better relationship with the person who cuts your hair, with the person who mows your lawn, with the, your dentist or whatever. Create those relationships. If you're a new agent, build on those relationships. Those are the ones who are your buyers, sellers, going to refer you business. Stop paying $3,000 for a freaking Zillow lead. All right.
Yeah, I think a lot. You nailed it though. It's that grit, right? I do not believe it. You can wake up one day and go, I'm going to be a hustler. I'm going to be a grinder. I'm going to have grit today. I think you have had to have had some life hurdles. You've had to have some pain in your life somewhere that you like, this is not a comfortable place. I don't want this for my spouse. I don't want this for my kids. I don't want this for myself. Like, in a business that's so simple that everyone seems to have for the most part, then the rest is easy. But I think like this, all of the different silver, linings and the easy buttons that we see, I think a lot of times we're all guilty of FOMO, right? We're all guilty that Dwayne's going to get this angle, right? And he's going to be able to just launch it and pick up another 40% of market share that he didn't have otherwise off this one thing. And it's an obnoxious amount of money. Right. So I look back at sales previous and other businesses I've been in the past, and I'm like, God, I've never been okay spending this level of money every 30 days, like annually maybe, but not every 30 days to make these numbers work. So I do think that we get wrapped up in the FOMO a lot. Dwayne, we follow Cheplack a lot, and Kimo, you probably do too, or familiar with John Cheplack. And, man, he nails it. Like, you can be at a distance and listen to the guy and go, wow, man, that's good, but I don't know if that's the same for me. But at the end of the day, work works. Simple solves the complex. Small hinges move big doors. It's like all that stuff just hits home. It hits home. Kimo, like, so everybody's got an influence in their life, like somebody or something, some trivial, individual, maybe it's a grandparent, maybe it's a next door neighbor, friend, book, movie, story. What's been your greatest influence in life and business?
Well, first one is my dad. He always told me I got my sales skills from him. He was a recruiter in the military. He's like, I had to sell someone on signing up to go to war or whatever, He's like, you're just selling houses. People want to live in those.
That's good. Yeah, he had a point.
Yeah. My dad, first and foremost in business, Jeff Cook. out of South Carolina. My business changed quite a bit when I started working with him. Um, Dave Norberg, early in my career. I don't know if you know that name. He was with KW Maps Coaching back in the day. He just hit the phones. That's all he did all day, and that's what he taught me. And so, I was like, it's air conditioning in here. Just hitting the phones. That sounds good. And God, I mean, there's a lot of coaches and training involved, but those are the big ones that jump out to me.
Yeah. So so folks that catch this or watch this or listen to this, download this podcast in the future, here's a guy that has been successful in sales and very passionate about real estate and been very successful in real estate. And if there's one thing, Kimo, that you could look back on time and at a younger real estate entrepreneur, what would be a key piece of advice? And we've talked about a lot, keeping things simple. Don't get caught up in FOMO. Work works, hammering the phones, having that grit. But if you could look back 5 years, 10 years as you came in this business, at a younger age, what would that key piece of advice or suggestion be?
I mean, it's simple. There's no magic to this. I mean, it's just contacts equals contracts, right?
I like it.
Talk to as many people as you can. I mean, it's, you always got to be thinking about real estate. And if you're having a conversation, you can let it get off track, but always bring it back, to home where it needs to be. It doesn't mean you need to sell everybody every time you talk to them, but have the conversations, whether it's social media, whether it's in person, over the phone, whatever it is, be interested in them and they'll be interested in you eventually. And I forgot to mention too, I mean, I'm here in Nashville now. And so I run a team here in Nashville, living TN. So obviously anybody watching who needs anything in Nashville, let us know.
Yeah, and so and while we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this, how could any of the listeners how could they reach out? What's the best way to reach you or stay in contact and connect with Kimo?
Do you have your own HGTV number or something like that?
Instagram's good, Kimo Quance. Just at Kimo Quance. There's only one of me out there, I think. And then spelling's around here somewhere, right down there, right?
Other corner, but you were close.
Yeah. Is it on this side? It's my corner.
Yeah.
Right. So the other side.
Whatever. My phone number is 615-392-1186, 615-392-1186. Shoot me a text. And yeah, those two places.
Yeah. I would highly encourage anybody listening that, to reach out to Kimo. I mean, just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, just a few of the nuggets that you had dropped. The contacts equal contracts. We all said it. We've said it multiple times on this podcast. This business really is simple. We overcomplicate the hell out of it as team leaders, brokers, right? Right. It's this bell and whistle and this new program and this new this new thing, and it literally just comes down to, right, fill that pipeline with contacts, have those conversations, like you said, build rapport, just, right, get belly to belly, have those easy conversations, and those conversations will turn into contracts. And it's so often there's so many other bells and whistles being sold, and you got to do this and you got to buy that, and it literally just comes down to the basics, and you nailed it and hit it out of the park on breaking it down on how simple this business truly is.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for listeners out there, he can help you. Him and his team can help you anywhere in the Middle Tennessee, and he's got contacts all over, back in California as well. And he buys and sells. He's an investor. He's a team leader. Like, he is an all around real estate entrepreneur. So if you guys want to connect with him, we will also include all of his details in the show notes. So you guys will have those as well. And I guess that's it. We'll put a wrap on it. And Kimo, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure connecting with you again, as always. And we look to connect with you again real soon, my friend.
Right on. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Kimo.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Have a good one. See y'all.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the R.E.A.L. podcast. Don't forget to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for more exclusive content. Keep striving for success, and we'll see you in the next episode.